There it is. Okay, give me 5. Good morning, Sheila. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning, Wayne. I'm excellent. How are you today?
I am doing great, thank you. And welcome everyone to 27 Minutes with Sheila and Wayne, where we explore the fascinating world of verbs and their impact on our daily lives. Join us each week as we delve into the different ways verbs shape our language and influence our interactions both personally and professionally, as we attempt to make a difference, a positive difference in our
Right.
world, one verb at a time.
All right.
And Sheila, what is our verb for today?
Today's verb is to sit, which I have two definitions. I know you have more, but the first is to adopt a position in which one's weight is supported by one's buttocks rather than one's feet, and one's back is upright.
Oh,
And number two is to be or remain in a particular position.
okay. Then I won't give you my first one because it's close.
Okay.
So here's my others.
Okay.
To be a model for a painter, photographer,
Ah, yes.
to stay in one place for a long time and not be used,
Mm-hmm.
to be in a particular position, as you said, to fit someone in a particular way,
Hmm.
to hold an official meeting of a committee, court,
Mm.
etc., and to be a member of an official group. I have 3 more. To
Okay.
take an exam. I know we've all
Oh,
sat for many
yes.
exams.
Yes.
Another one to babysit. And my last,
Oh,
yeah, and my last one to have an official meeting or series of meetings.
okay.
And, and I have some exciting news.
Let's hear it.
We have now, we can now add Turkey to our countries that have listened. So, yay!
Yay.
Thank you,
Go
Turkey,
turkey.
and thank you to whoever introduced Turkey to our podcast. Golly, that makes 19 countries now, ladies and gentlemen, that we have been listening to. So thank you very much. We are very
Thank you.
excited about that.
Yes, we
Thank you. Thank
appreciate you all.
absolutely. And Sheila makes us sound good. So I know she's she's our poster person here, going leading with that marketing tool.
I do have a trivia question here,
Okay.
and I'll answer it at the end. The question is, what is the hardest thing to train a dog to do? Now, we know that our verb today is to sit. It is not to sit, although that is usually the first thing we train our dog to do.
Okay.
Okay.
Hardest thing. Okay, to train
Yep.
a dog to do. All
Yep.
right.
And let me give you a few quotes just to get us started here.
Oh, please do.
Okay, Winston Churchill said, Courage is what it takes to stand up and speak. Courage is also what it takes to sit down and listen."
Ah,
So,
yes.
yes. Teddy Roosevelt said, "If you could kick the person in the pants who is responsible for most of your trouble, you wouldn't sit down for a month." And then finally, Albert Einstein, although I question if this is a legitimate quote because it sounds too funny. When you're courting a new girl, hours seem like seconds. When you sit on a red hot cinder, a second seems like an hour. That's relativity.
Mm.
So let's jump
Yes.
into the word now, though.
Oh, yeah, let's do that because I have lots to say, and I'm sure you do as
Okay,
well.
I do. I do. Can I
Okay,
just throw in one here?
please.
Mayo Clinic says sitting is the new smoking. Did you
Sitting is the new
capture?
smoking.
Sitting is the new smoking. There's a meta study, which they took all the other studies, 13 other studies, and kind of reviewed them all and came up with the results that those who sit for over 8 hours a day are as much at risk of dying of obesity of dying as those who are obese or who are smokers. So the recommendation is to take a break every 30 minutes, to walk over to the furthest copier, to flex your feet and move around your arms and shoulders as you're sitting, and don't just sit solidly still. So on to
Isn't that
you.
isn't that great how verbs bring us together? Because I have a study from the Harvard Health Publishing from
Okay.
Harvard Medical School that suggests basically the same thing of what you said.
Oh, great.
It says a growing body of evidence suggests that spending too many hours sitting is hazardous to your health.
Okay.
Habitual inactivity raises risk for obesity, as you've
Hmm.
suggested,
Right.
diabetes, cardiovascular disease, deep vein thrombosis, and metabolic syndrome. In the article, they suggested, like you said again, set a timer to remind you to get up and move around ever so often.
Hmm.
Take your phone calls standing up.
Ah,
Try an adjustable standing desk for your computer.
I've seen
Instead of,
those.
yep,
Yeah.
instead of sitting in an armchair while watching TV, sit on on one of those stability balls,
Oh,
which
yeah.
makes you use your muscles to stay upright. And yes, do our joint pain relief exercises.
You know,
Yes.
I did hear a caution about sitting on those exercise balls because I was reading about that too. Some people use them at their desk. The catch is it's as easy to have poor posture when you forget that you're supposed to be sitting on it with good posture. And
Ooh.
once you fall into the poor posture, it's just as bad as sitting in a chair. So you just have to be really conscious the whole time that you're using your best posture.
And the first time I sat on one of those, it looked like a wrestling match, and I think the sitting ball won. I was on the
Not for
floor.
everybody. It's
I was on
not
the
for
floor a couple of times. I just have to say.
well, thank you for your honesty.
Yes. And so that was one article that I saw.
Okay,
May I talk about another article?
please do.
This article was from Psychology Today, and it's written by Bernardo Tirado. I hope I pronounced that name right, Bernardo Tirado. Anyway, it talks about the power seat and where you sit matters.
Ah,
I
yeah.
found this article fascinating
Okay.
because many of these things I think most of us already know. I think it's just common knowledge that in a boardroom, the long table, the boss typically sits at the end, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, okay. Um, but I found this interesting because it gave some things that I really didn't realize, and I learned something today. And I was out walking with my wife, and I got to be brief. I know because I have a lot to say.
Okay.
Was as I was out walking with my wife this morning, I told her about one of these things, and she looked at me like, "Huh." She had never thought of that either. But anyway, here
Okay.
we go.
Let's hear
So
it.
the power seat has to do with the power dynamics between where you sit and the rest of the group. And it said, for the most part, we've all been exposed to group setting dynamics, starting out with our family. So as
Mm-hmm.
children, we learn to pick up on social cues to make sure
Mm.
that we conform to the norms. Listen to that, to conforming to the norms around us. And one of these norms is known as the power seat, which is the seat that we unconsciously designate as the one that has the most authority. And that has such a huge impact on groups and teams and organizations. As I found teaching leadership, it is absolutely true. And they say, for example, think back to when you were a child having a family dinner. Who would,
Mm-hmm.
who would sit at the head of the table? Mom and dad, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Some of us, our mom and dad would sit at opposite sides of the dinner table. And for others, our mom and dad would sit right next to our dad, or mom, yeah, would sit right next to our
Oh,
dad in the corner position as in a supportive role.
okay.
And I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. Last thing they said was, think of a wedding where you
Ah,
attend, including yours, if that's applicable. It says, where did the bride and groom sit? They sat in the middle. And then the most important guests were to their immediate left or right, similar to what you would find in Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper painting,
ah.
where the most important figures sat in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And the strap hangers kind of got delineated down to the not not totally unimportant, but the least important, but the closest mentor, the closest I guess the closest persons to being the next in charge were sitting right
Ah,
next to the
there you
person.
go. Yeah.
Okay, I'll say it
Yep.
that way.
Okay.
But okay, anyway, so I will go to you because I'm talking too much. So please
Not at all. Not at all.
jump
Well,
in
the
there.
first thing I want to mention is a study I read about. This is from NIH in 2007, National Institutes of Health, and they measured the doctor's posture and the influence on patients' perception of time spent at the bedside versus the actual time that the
Huh?
provider spent at the bedside. And the conclusion was when the medical provider is standing, the patient underestimates the time that they are spending together. When the provider is sitting, they overestimate the time that the provider is spending with them.
Mm.
All providers, most all providers, overestimated the time, whether they were standing or sitting, that they spent with the patient, and neither of them felt that the care that they received was impacted by standing or sitting. But the final note is that medical training teaches providers to sit when they're giving bad news. And I think everybody can agree that that is a better way, especially female patients preferred a doctor
Yes.
sitting. So
Yes.
that was good to know. But what's the next thing? Let's keep moving on.
Okay. The next thing in the same article written by Bernardo Tirado, he says that in the case where when you sit at either end of the table,
Hmm.
you send a few unspoken messages to the people who sit around you. And these messages are, there's three of them. You are the leader.
Hmm.
You are in control, and you are there to intimidate.
I hope
I
that's not at the family dinner.
I found that interesting that you're there to
Yes.
intimidate. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they said if you sit in the middle seat, you send a whole other set of messages, such as, so you're not on the end anymore, now you're in the middle. You are a part of the team. You are
Okay.
approachable, and you are there to collaborate. And I thought, how cool was that? Now I know I had one boss who had his desk, and I'll talk about CEOs later, but he had the huge desk and it was in big office and all this kinds of things. But what he would do, or not but, and what he would do when he would bring individuals in to kind of like brainstorm or just have a discussion,
Hmm.
he had a round table
Mm.
off in the corner. He would get up from his desk, from his power
Hmm.
position, or a power seat, as this
Hmm.
article suggests. He would get up from there and he would invite everyone to sit at the round table. Now, round table, we think of King Arthur, right?
Right.
And what's the significance of the round table? Most, okay, you were going to say something. What?
Everybody's in it together. Everybody has equal weight.
Everyone has equal weight. And then Bernardo said something that I never realized. And I said, huh. He
Okay.
said, the way that you make the round table back towards the oval table and putting yourself at the end is you slide your chair back ever so slightly. Not
Ah.
too far. He says if you go too far, then people think that you're out of the group. But if you
Mm.
pull it back ever so slightly and you begin talking with authority,
Hmm.
people will turn their respective chairs towards you. All of a sudden,
Interesting.
now you're at the head of the table, even though it's round.
Interesting.
I found that to be absolutely fascinating.
I am just going to do a lot of people watching next time I'm at a restaurant, say, and there are round tables. That is interesting.
Yes, yes. Isn't that cool?
That's cool.
I thought that was very cool. Yes. Okay.
I want
Go
to
ahead,
jump in
please.
here quickly.
Jump in.
Last night I had dinner with some lovely friends, and we were talking about this verb because they were asking what we were going to be discussing today, and they talked about the value of sitting at a family dinner. And there was research done. But there's been a lot of research done about family dinners and the benefits to the family, not just for nutrition and less fat and salt in the meal generally, but
Okay.
also in terms of mental health. And they say that 91% of parents reported that families were significantly less stressed when eating together regularly, and young females especially benefited from this.
Hmm.
Some of the benefits were talking over family issues, talking over, how to handle things in the world. And oh, and by the way, you don't need to be the perfect family to reap the benefits of this,
You
but
don't?
you do not.
Huh.
Well, although Wayne, come on, you guys are the perfect family,
Oh
so
yeah,
you don't
no,
you
no.
can ignore that
Oh,
advice.
please don't even go
I know,
there.
I know. Well, then I'll let you go. But what I'm going to talk about next is a study done during the pandemic about family dinners and what people perceived their experiences were like. So,
Oh no, please go ahead. Go ahead.
well,
I'm
okay,
I'm
all right.
excited. I'm listening.
Well, this was a study done in May 2021 by Massachusetts General Hospital Psychiatric Academy and an organization called Making Caring Count, which is from Harvard Graduate School of Education. And this was a self-reported survey that they put out. 51% of parents who this is self-reporting, said that they were doing family dinners more frequently. 65% said they received more help from the family. So having kids participate was part of the communal experience. 59% said that they laughed more over their meal. So these not all bad things happened a lot of bad things happened, but not everything was bad. 50% said that their family members expressed gratitude more often, and 49% said they felt more connected. Now, just a few more statistics here. 53% of parents said they wanted to continue this after the world opened up again. They wanted to continue the benefits of the family meals.
Okay.
7% said, no way, can't wait to go back to the restaurants. I hate cooking.
So, really?
Yes.
How fun.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm going to make sure to have a family dinner with Fred tonight.
Okay. Well, I won't have a family dinner with Fred, but okay, but
right.
Not tonight anyway. Yes.
Not tonight. Another night. Another night.
Another night. Yes. Pretty cool. Okay. And talking about family dinners, segue back into the article written by Bernardo.
Yes.
He says, I also get asked if these concepts apply to other tables shapes. And he said the answer is yes. And he said in square tables, everyone gets to sit in a combative and corner position. Combative and corner position.
Okay.
So they all are on a corner. You know about the corner office, right? With the windows on both sides.
Right. So
yes. The corner position. He says typically the most resistance will come from the person seated directly opposite you.
Oh.
In the gunslinger position.
Okay. Sounds even better.
Right. And he says, and when 4 people are seated, everyone has someone sitting opposite them. And so, and I have noticed that most of the discussions are face-to-face, head-on with the person right in front of you. I've not seen many times where a elongated discussion goes crossways.
Okay.
Have been people, obviously we do interject crossways, but he says most of the time it's going to come down to who's sitting in front of you, and that's where the conversation is going to go.
I'm going to pay more attention to that. Yeah, and the contrarian in me says I'm going to start side conversations.
There you go. Yes. And he says, similar to the square table, the power seat would be created by moving the chair back slightly on the round table. If you don't need the seats next to you, remove them. And I thought again, okay, that's just making the distance perspective. Again, you're keeping distance. You've now elongated the round table to an oval table, and it's them against you or you against them.
Okay.
And I thought, wow, it was a very fun article to read, and enlightening. And I thought, So he says, so the next time you sit with your client or at a meeting, be aware of where you sit or who's sitting where. You will start to notice the power dynamics change based on who's sitting next to whom. And so what he says is, if you see those dynamics playing, change them.
Yes.
Like you just said.
Right.
Yes. And what's next on your topics to talk to us about?
Oh, this is just a fun fact. Years ago when I was in college, my roommates and I would we lived together all 4 years, and we would take turns cooking and cleaning, and we would eat dinner together. So we enjoyed the concept of family dinner together. But the long-term effect we never would have guessed is that over 40 years later, we still get together on Saturday mornings as often as possible and have breakfast together and just chat for a couple hours about, we solve the problems of the world.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Not much like we're doing here.
Much like we're doing here.
By changing, making a difference one verb at a time.
That's right.
And Sheila, where can our listeners find you or contact you?
Yes, I can be reached at zekeandsheila@yahoo.com.
And I can be reached at Wayne@mindsyncing.com. That's MINDSYNCING.com. My website is www.mindsyncing.com. Please stop by, pop by, send us a note, give us some feedback. Let us hear what you have to say.
Yes, and recommend a verb.
And my neighbor has recommended a verb, and if he's listening to this, he's going to say, "Uh-oh, I hope Wayne doesn't say my name." So I won't say your name.
Okay.
But he wants us to talk about repeal next time.
We never announce ahead of time the word that we're going to work on, but this is a first for us.
Oh, you're right.
So
Absolutely.
thank you, Wayne's neighbor. We're
This is a
just
first.
breaking records right and left here.
We are. Yeah, 19 countries. Turkey's the latest country listening. Yes, this is good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I took Bernardo's model and I came up with a
Yes.
couple, just two examples, and I said, using this article from Bernardo as a model, let's look at the position others use to formulate positions of power.
All right.
And I said, and I'm asking the question to everyone, where does a judge sit in a courtroom? And a judge typically sits at the head of the room,
Mm-hmm.
away from the masses, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
on a higher
Right.
platform.
Yes.
So that everyone has to look up to them, and they are surrounded by huge desks, and
Mhm.
there's a guard there, and everything, which suggests that this person is in a power position, and we all have to rise when they come in and rise when they leave. And
Mhm.
so again, unconsciously and consciously, we know that this person is the person in the position of power. I said, so when you think of CEOs, where do they sit? And I thought, about that judge concept. I
Mhm.
said they sit on the highest floor in some buildings, in
Mhm.
a large office,
Mhm.
guarded, and I have the words guarded in quotes,
Mhm.
guarded by a cadre of administrative assistants
Yep.
and other C-suite individuals, and usually behind, again, a huge desk
Right.
with a large wingback chair. And typically it's a little bit higher so that when
Yeah.
individuals come in to sit, they're sitting just a little bit lower, which gives that that
Power.
uncomfortable,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? That little power struggle there everything says power, power, power. So I
Right.
thought,
Right.
how cool is that?
Maybe this is just in television, but I heard once where they would shorten the front legs of the chair that the guest would sit in so that they were kind of sliding off the chair, a little bit uncomfortable the whole time.
Okay. And then now you know me, I have to go into the positive side. Okay.
I was waiting.
We talked about a lot of these, not well, we talked about a lot of negative things, but we also talked
Mhm.
about some things that are maybe not negative or positive. But I did go to what are some positives that we can take away from the
Good.
verb sit.
Excellent.
And I thought, because I love to barbecue and I love to roast a tenderloin every now and then.
Ooh.
So when cooking, especially with a meat, when it's time in the oven is complete, we let it sit on the counter
Yes.
and rest. And
Yeah.
why do we do that? You're a
It
cook.
so that the juices reabsorb into the meat and make it nice and juicy when you cut it.
And it continues to cook even a
And it
little bit
continues to
longer.
cook.
Yes,
Yes.
right? Yes. And it's not being dried out by either the grill or the oven. So there we go. A positive, sitting, letting the meat sit outside, just to, as you said, to rest.
Good.
I was taught over the years, when writing an article or a book or a yearly appraisal on one of my direct reports, I was told by a friend, all right, once you have looked at it 15, 20 times and you just looked at it ad nauseum and you think it's all great, they told me, put it in a drawer. Put it in a drawer,
Oh.
close the drawer, let it sit there. Let it sit there. Do you notice that? For
Yep.
2 days.
Oh.
Don't even look at it. On the third day, pull it back out, reread it. You would be surprised at what you might find.
Okay.
Mistakes or other things that you wanted to put in there. But
Yeah.
again, let that paperwork sit and then come back to it. And wow, things happen. Positive things happen.
Neat.
I'm looking at the clock. We are at 24 minutes. So I will defer to you. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more points that I would like to try and get in there, but let's go to you.
Wayne, the only other thing I'm going to say is there's a great website called thefamilydinnerproject.org, and it talks about, say you have some kids who are challenged by just sitting and you want to have a positive family dinner experience. It just talks about cheap recipes, about fast meals, about tips for conversation, and how to handle dinner challenges. So
Okay.
it's a great resource.
I like that. Thank you for that website.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Anything else?
You
I'm sure.
go for it, Wayne. Go for it.
Oh,
Use
I
this
will
time
go for
well.
it. Okay. All right. How about this? When words escalate at home or at work or at the negotiation point, walk away for a time, not too long though, and re-engage. So let those thoughts sit with us for a while, and then come back in before we say things that we don't want to say, because once you say it, it's gone. You can't get it back.
That's right. That's right.
But they say come back a little bit later and then re-engage, and a better outcome is usually had when one does this, as opposed to just sitting there and fighting it and escalating it and getting to places where we don't want to go. How about this? When things don't sit well with you and you have the authority or a position of responsibility to enact change for the better, do it.
Yes.
I've seen many things that just didn't sit well with me. I would see people do things. I go, that just doesn't taste right. Nope. Gotta fix that.
Good.
How about this? Don't sit on your laurels, as people and organizations will surpass you. Success is not final. So much like Janet Jackson has says, what have you done for me lately? I don't care about 3 years ago. Okay, you were the best, whatever it was 3 years ago. Yeah, that's not happening.
You know what? And you can't take relationships for granted either. So there you go.
Really? Yes. Thank you. I appreciate
I hope
that.
that's not new news to you.
How about this one?
Not. Yes.
When you do sit, think, ask, engage, research, learn, get up, and then act. So sit there, think about it, engage with others, ask others, research, learn, and then act.
Okay.
And my last one here,
okay,
before we go to your answer to your trivia question.
Oh, right.
And I'm making is kind of like a metaphor here, or an analogy, if you will. Batteries are a good example when I say don't sit too long, as they become corroded, lose energy, and have to be replaced at a loss if not used when they are most ready to be used. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about people. So be it with people. If you have great people and you know they're great because you hired them to fulfill a specific role, give them the guidance and the support. And I'm kind of saying, plug them in like a battery.
Yeah. Let them do their job.
And let them do their job. Exactly.
Good.
I think that's just a great positive there. Because if you let them sit too long, the good ones are going to go away, because they still have energy, they still have the excitement, they still have the need to do things, and they want to get involved. Let them go. Sheila,
Wayne,
what is the hardest thing to train a dog
to
do?
To stay. They're pretty good at sit, but the stay part is the challenge.
Okay.
My dog is staying outside the door today because he didn't want to stay inside.
Ooh. Is he sitting?
I don't know. I don't know,
Okay.
but he's not thumping on the door, so we're good.
All right. Sheila, would you take us home, please?
We definitely appreciate everybody who has sat through or stood through listening to this podcast today. Thank you for the recommendations of some great words. Thank you for listening to us throughout the world. Please come back next week.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you, Wayne.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.